Just let me clean it up.
No, it's coming everywhere!
What are you doing?
Helping!
They said she was cursed. That's what the headlines whispered when the 19th nanny walked of the Whitmore mansion. Mascara streaming down her face. Designer heels clicking frantically against marble as she fled. The billionaire's daughter had broken another one. At just 7 years old, little Sophia Whitmore had become New York's most notorious child, a tiny terror in patent leather shoes who had defeated Ivy League graduates, former military personnel, and even a child psychologist with 20 years of experience. But what the cameras didn't capture, what the gossip columns couldn't see, was the truth hidden behind those defiant green eyes. It would take someone unexpected, someone the world would never have chosen, to finally see past the armor of a heartbroken little girl. If you believe that sometimes extraordinary solutions come from the most ordinary places, hit that like button right now. And subscribe, because this story will remind you why we should never judge a book by its cover, and why love sometimes appears in the most unexpected packages. The rain hammered against the floor to ceiling windows of Whitmore Tower, each drop a tiny fist demanding entry into the sterile perfection within. 27 floors below, the city pulsed with life, but up here in the penthouse, everything felt frozen, preserved like a museum exhibit of what wealth could buy but never truly possess. Victoria Whitmore stood in her home office. Phone pressed against her ear with the kind of pressure that suggested she was trying to push pressure, that frustration directly through the device, and into whoever was unfortunate enough to be on the receiving end. "I don't care if you have to fly someone in from Switzerland," Victoria said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I have a board meeting in Tokyo in 3 days. And I will not, cancel because my daughter has managed to terrorize another qualified professional into resignation." She paused, listening, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming an impatient rhythm against her mahogany desk. "No, Mrs. Chen, I don't think I'm being unreasonable. I think I'm being a CEO who pays your agency an obscene amount of money to solve exactly this kind of problem." In the doorway, unnoticed by her mother, Sophia sat cross-legged on the floor, a battered stuffed rabbit clutched against her chest. She'd had that rabbit since she was 2. Since before everything changed, since before her father's helicopter had fallen from the drop star. Mr. Hopsworth, she'd named him. In the days when she still believed in happy endings and bedtime stories. Now he was just a witness to the disaster her life had become. His button eyes reflecting nothing but the quiet understanding that comes from being the owner of revolving doors. "She's 7 years old. For heaven's sake," Victoria continued, and Sophia flinched at the exasperation in her mother's voice. How difficult can one child be? Sophia could have answered that question. She could have explained that it wasn't difficult at all. Not if someone would just see her, really see her. Instead of seeing a problem to be managed, a schedule to be maintained, a legacy to be preserved. But Sophia had learned that speaking her truth only made things worse, only brought more strangers with fake smiles and practiced patience that always ran out eventually. The call ended with the hollow click of disconnection, and Victoria noticed her daughter's small form in the doorway. For just a moment, something flickered across her face, something that might have been regret or longing or the ghost of maternal instinct. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by the mask of controlled composure that made her a legend in the business world. "Sophia. Darling, you should be in bed," Victoria said, glancing at the platinum watch on her wrist. "It's nearly 9 o'clock. "I'm not tired," Sophia replied, her voice small but steady. "And there's nobody to put me to bed anyway. Miss Catherine left, remember." Miss Catherine was unprofessional and unsuited for her position, Victoria said, returning her attention to the laptop screen in front of her, where stock prices and profit margins demanded her focus with greater urgency than the child who shared her DNA. "Mrs. Chen is sending someone new tomorrow. This one has a PhD in child development from Cambridge. They all have PhDs in something." Sophia muttered quiet that her mother might not have heard, or might have chosen not to hear, which amounted to the same thing in the end. Victoria's fingers paused over her keyboard, hovering in the space between continuing to work and addressing the accusation in her daughter's voice. The pause lasted 3 heartbeats, then 4. A moment of possibility that stretched and strained before snapping back into the familiar pattern of avoidance. Go to bed, Sophia. We'll discuss your behavior with the new nanny tomorrow. Sophia didn't move. She sat there in the doorway. 7 years old and already fluent in the language of abandonment, watching her mother choose every else over her one more time. Finally, she stood, Mr. Hopsworth dangling from one hand, and walked toward the bedroom wing of the penthouse, her footsteps silent on carpet that cost more than most people's cars. Sophia, Victoria called out, and for a fraction of a second, hope flared in the little girl's chest. She turned, waiting. Close my office door on your way out, please. The hope died quietly, as it always did, and Sophia pulled the door shut with careful precision, sealing her mother away in the world of numbers and deals, and everything that mattered more than a daughter who just wanted to be loved. Across the city, in a studio apartment in Queens that was roughly the size of Victoria Whitmore's Walk, in Closet, Maya Rodriguez was having a very different kind of evening. She sat at her tiny kitchen table, the surface barely large enough for her laptop, and the stack of past-due notices that seemed to reproduce when she wasn't looking, and contemplated the mathematics of impossibility. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate Jenna, who was working the night shift at the hospital, where they'd both pulled 12-hour days before Jenna had gotten into nursing school, and left the diner behind. How's the job hunt? The text read, followed by a hopeful emoji that Maya appreciated even as she had to disappoint it. Maya typed back. 23 applications sent this week. 2 responses, both rejections. I'm officially qualified for nothing that pays enough to live on. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again as Jenna composed and reconsidered her response. Finally, something will come through. You're brilliant and hardworking, and anyone would be lucky to have you. Maya smiled at the screen, warmed by the loyalty of a friendship that had survived 3 years of split rent and shared dreams. But friendship didn't pay the bills that covered the table like autumn leaves. Each one a reminder that brilliance and hard work meant very little when your resume consisted of 5 years, waiting tables at a diner that had closed 3 months ago. Putting you right back at square one at age 26 with nothing to show for it, but calloused feet and the ability to carry 6 plates at once. She'd been a good waitress, maybe even a great one. The regulars at Sal's Corner Diner had loved her, had requested her section, had left tips that kept her afloat through the lean times when her mother's medical bills had consumed everything Maya had, and then some. She'd learned every regular's order, remembered their stories, their children's names, their favorite jokes. She'd made people feel seen, heard, valued in the everyday interactions that most people barely noticed. But now Sal's was a boutique coffee shop charging $8 for lattes. And Maya's skills in making someone's day brighter over eggs and hash browns apparently didn't translate into any viable career path. Her laptop pinged with a new email, and Maya clicked over to her inbox with the wary resignation of someone who knew it would just be another rejection. Another form letter, thanking her for her interest, but informing her that they'd selected a candidate whose qualifications better matched their needs. But this email was different. The subject line read, urgent placement opportunity, immediate start possible. Maya frowned, scanning the sender's address. Chen Elite Staffing Agency. She'd applied to them weeks ago, back when she was still optimistic enough to think that her lack of formal qualifications might be overlooked in favor of her work ethic and references. The application had asked for experience in childcare, education, or household management. And Maya had stretched the truth only slightly when she mentioned that she'd been the primary caregiver for her younger brother from ages 14 to 18, when he'd finally graduated high school and joined the army. The email was brief and to the point. Emmons Rodriguez. We have an urgent placement for a live-in position starting immediately. The family requires someone who can begin tomorrow. Compensation is $4,000 per week. Room and board included. Please call this number within the hour if you're interested in an interview. Maya read the email 3 times, certain she'd misunderstood. $4,000 per week. That was more than she'd made in 2 months at the diner. That was impossible. That was either a scam or a mistake or both. But the phone number had a legitimate area code, and when Maya searched for the staffing agency, they appeared to be real, with a website featuring testimonials from wealthy families, and impressive credentials for their placement. Her hand hovered over her phone, heart hammering with the kind of desperate hope that she'd learned to suppress because hope hurt worse than resignation when it inevitably fell through. She called. A crisp, professional voice answered on the second ring. Chen Elite Staffing, this is Margaret speaking. Hi, yes, I'm Maya Rodriguez. I just received an email about an urgent placement. Maya winced at the way her statements came out like questions. A nervous habit she'd never managed to break. Ms. Rodriguez, yes. Thank you for calling so promptly. Papers rustled in the background. I'll be frank with this is an unusual situation. We have a client, a very prominent client, who requires a nanny for her 7-year-old daughter. The position has proven difficult to fill. We've placed 18 candidates over the past 6 months and none have worked out. 18. Maya's eyebrows shot up. In 6 months. The child is challenging, Margaret said delicately. But the compensation reflects that challenge. If you're interested, I can arrange for you to meet with Mrs. Whitmore tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Whitmore. As in Whitmore Industries. Maya's stomach dropped, she knew that name. Everyone in New York knew that name. Victoria Whitmore, the ice queen of corporate America. The woman who'd taken her late husband's company, and tripled its value in 5 years. Who graced the covers of Fortune and Forbes with her perfect hair and perfect suits and perfect life. The very same. I should warn you, Miss Rodriguez, that your qualifications are not exactly what Mrs. Whitmore typically looks for. However, given the urgency of the situation and your impressive references from your previous employer, I'm willing to present you as a candidate. But I need to know now if you're willing to meet with her. Maya looked around her tiny apartment. At the past due notices, at the nearly empty refrigerator, at the future stretching out before her like a road with no destination. She thought about her rota in the assisted living facility upstate. About the phone call last week where the administrator had gently suggested that Maya might want to start looking into more affordable options. She thought about pride and qualification and all the reasons she should say no to something so far outside her experience. I'll be there, Maya said. The next morning dawned gray and uncertain, the sky unable to commit to rain or sun, settling instead for a damp ambiguity that matched Maya's mood perfectly. She stood outside Whitmore Tower at 7:45, looking up at the glass and steel monument to excess, and seemed to pierce the clouds themselves. She'd put on her only interview suit. A navy blue number she'd bought at a thrift store for her college admissions interviews. Back when she'd still believed a degree was in her future. Before her father had died and her mother had gotten sick and reality had rearranged all her careful plans. The lobby was all marble and intimidation, with a security desk manned by guards, who looked like they could bench press her entire building. Maya gave her name to a woman whose makeup was more expensive than Maya's entire outfit, and was directed to a private elevator that required a key card to access. The elevator attendant, because apparently elevators in buildings like this came with attendants, pressed the button for the penthouse without asking, which meant they'd been expecting her. The ride up felt like ascending into another world, each floor marking a greater distance from the reality Maya knew. She caught her reflection in the mirrored elevator walls, and barely recognized herself. This nervous woman in an outdated suit clutching a folder with her meager resume and references, about to interview for a job she had no business applying for. The elevator opened directly into the Whitmore penthouse, and Maya stepped out into a foyer larger than her entire apartment. Fresh flowers that probably cost more than her monthly rent sat in a vase on a table that belonged in a museum. Everything was white and cream and pristine, the kind of space that looked like nobody actually lived there, like it was all for show. Rodriguez. Maya turned to find a woman in her 60s. Impeccably dressed, regarding her with the kind of expression that suggested she'd already been measured and found wanting. This had to be Mrs. Chen, the agency owner herself. "I'm Maya Rodriguez, yes." Maya extended her hand, and Mrs. Chen shook it with the minimum amount of contact necessary to be polite. "Let me be clear about something before we go any further," Mrs. Chen said, her voice low and urgent. "You are not qualified for this position. Under normal circumstances, I would never have considered your application. However, Whitmore's daughter has successfully driven away every qualified candidate we've provided, and we're out of options. Mrs. Whitmore is desperate. Which is the only reason you're here. Do you understand?" Maya swallowed hard. "I understand. Follow me." They walked through the penthouse. Past rooms that seemed to serve no purpose except to exist. Past art that Maya vaguely recognized from her art history class in community college. Past windows that offered views of the city that made her feel like she was floating above the world rather than living in it. Finally, they reached an office where Victoria Whitmore sat behind a desk, looking exactly like she did in the magazines, beautiful and severe and completely untouchable. Victoria looked up from her computer screen, her eyes sweeping over Maya with the kind of assessment that could calculate worth in seconds. Maya saw the moment Victoria registered her cheap suit, her off-brand shoes, the folder clutched in her hands like a shield. Saw the dismissal flicker across Victoria's face before she even spoke. "Mrs. Chen, I ask for candidates' degrees and extensive experience." "Mrs. Whitmore, we've provided you with 16 such candidates. And your daughter has rejected all of them within a matter of days. Perhaps it's time to consider a different approach." Victoria's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Sit, Miss Rodriguez." Maya sat, her back straight, hands folded over the folder in her lap. She could feel her heart hammering against her ribs. Could feel the weight of Victoria Whitmore's skepticism pressing down on her like a physical force. "Your resume says you were a waitress," Victoria said, making the word sound like something distasteful. "Yes, ma'am. For 5 years at Sal's Corner Diner in Queens. And before that, community college for 2 years. I didn't finish. My father passed away, and I needed to work to help support my family." "I see. And your experience with children?" "I raised my younger brother from the time I was 14 until he graduated high school. My mother worked 2 jobs, so I was responsible for making sure he got to school, did his homework, ate dinner, stayed out. In the army now, serving overseas. He made it through high school with a B average and no disciplinary issues." Victoria's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Some small recognition that maybe there was more to this girl than her resume suggested. "Roz Grokaz, my daughter is not a normal child. She's been through considerable trauma. She's angry, defiant, and has made it her mission to drag away every caregiver we've hired. The last nanny, who had a PhD in child psychology, left in tears after Sophia locked her in a closet for 3 hours. Maya couldn't help it. A small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Victoria noticed. "You find that amusing?" "No, Mom. I just think that's pretty creative for a 7-year-old. She must have really wanted that nanny gone." "This is not a joke, Miss Rodriguez. I'm not laughing, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm just saying that it sounds like Sophia is smart and determined. Those are good qualities. Maybe she just hasn't found someone worth keeping around yet." The silence that followed stretched long enough for Maya to wonder if she'd just talked herself out of a job she desperately needed. Victoria studied her with an intensity that made Maya want to look away, but she held the older woman's gaze, refusing to flinch. Finally, Victoria spoke. "The position is live-in. You would have your own suite in the staff wing. $4,000 per week, paid weekly. You would be responsible for Sophia from the time she wakes up until bedtime. Meals, homework activities, discipline. Everything. I travel frequently for business. Sometimes for weeks at a time. During those periods you would be her primary caregiver. I understand. If you accept this position, I expect you to last longer than 3 days, which is the current record. If you leave, or if receive 1 week's severance. If you make it 30 days, I'll give you a bonus of $10,000. Maya did the math in her head. If she could make it 30 days, that would be $26,000, plus room and board, which meant she could keep her apartment for Jenna, pay off her mother's outstanding bills, and have enough left over to breathe for the first time in years. When would you need me to start? Maya asked. I leave for Tokyo in 2 hours. And I need to know that Sophia is being supervised. Maya thought about her apartment, her clothes, her life that she'd be walking away from, at least temporarily. She thought about how nothing in her experience had prepared her for this. For living in a penthouse with a billionaire's traumatized daughter. She thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. I'll need to get some things from my apartment. I can be back by this afternoon. Victoria's eyebrows rose slightly, the closest she seemed to come to showing surprise. Mrs. Chen will have a car take you to collect your belongings. I expect you back here by 2 o'clock. My assistant will show you to your quarters and introduce you to Sophia before I leave. Maya stood, extending her hand across the desk. Victoria shook it, her grip firm and brief. Don't make me regret this, Ms. Rodriguez. I'll do my best, Mrs. Whitmore. 2 hours later, Maya found herself back in the penthouse. This time with a suitcase containing her clothes, and a box with the few possessions that mattered to her. Photos of her family, the books she'd collected over the years, her mother's rosary. A woman named Patricia, Victoria's assistant, showed her to a suite that was bigger than Maya's entire apartment had been, with a bedroom, a sitting room with a tub deep enough to swim in. Mrs. Whitmore has already left for the airport, Patricia explained. Her tone professionally neutral in a way that suggested she'd seen many nannies come and go and had no expectations that Maya would be any different. Sophia is in her room. 3rd door on the left in the family wing. Good luck, Miss Rodriguez, you're going to need it. Maya stood in her new suite after Patricia left, trying to absorb the surreal turn her life had taken in less than 24 hours. Then she squared her shoulders, left her unpacking for later, and walked toward the family wing to meet the child who had defeated 18 previous caregivers. The 3rd door on the left was closed, and Maya could hear music playing inside, something classical and melancholy that seemed too sophisticated for a 7-year-old's taste. She knocked gently. The music didn't stop, but a small voice called out, "Go away. I don't want a new nanny." Maya leaned against the doorframe, speaking through the closed door. That's convenient. Because I'm not really a nanny. I'm Maya. I used to be a waitress, and I'm not qualified for this job at all, which means I'll probably mess up a lot. But your mom hired me anyway, so I guess we're stuck with each other for now. Silence from inside the room. Then you're not a nanny. Nope. Never been one before. You're my first kid, so I have no idea what I'm doing. Then why did my mother hire you? Honestly, I think she's desperate. I hear you've been pretty effective at getting rid of everyone else. The door opened a crack, and one green eye peered out at Maya, assessing. You're not dressed like the other nannies. Maya looked down at her jeans and NYU shirt, borrowed from Jenna years ago. Yeah. I don't really own the whole blazer and pearls thing. This okay? The door opened wider, revealing a small girl with dark hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. Wearing a dress that probably cost more than Maya's car had, back when she'd had a car. But it was Sophia's eyes that caught Maya's attention. Green and guarded and holding a world of hurt that no 7-year-old should have to carry. I guess, Sophia said. But you should know I'm not going to like you. I don't like any of them. That's fair. You don't know me yet. Maybe you won't like me. Maybe I won't like you either. But we're both here. So we might as well figure it out. Sophia's eyes narrowed. The other nannies always pretend they like me right away. They smile too much and use baby voices and act like we're going to be best friends. Well, I'm not going to pretend anything, and I definitely don't have a baby voice. Want to hear my regular voice? This is it. This is all I've got. A smile flickered across Sophia's face. So quick Maya almost missed it. You're weird. I get that a lot. So, what do you usually do after school? I have tutors. And they all quit too. Maya raised her eyebrows. All of them. The last one called me an ungrateful low monster before he left. But he said it in French, so I think he thought I wouldn't understand. Joke's on him. I'm fluent in 4 languages. Impressive. I barely speak one language properly. What did you do to make him call you that? Sophia shrugged, studying her shoes. I might have told him his breath smelled like old cheese. In French. Maya had to press her lips together to keep from laughing. Well, that wasn't very nice. He was mean first. He kept telling me I was stupid because I didn't understand some grammar thing. I'm not stupid. No. Maya said gently, crouching down so she was at Sophia's eye level. You're definitely not stupid. Smart people know 4 languages. But telling him about his breath probably wasn't the best way to solve the problem. What should I have done? Sophia's tone was defensive. But there was a genuine question underneath it. Maybe told him that you didn't like how he talked to you. That calling you stupid hurt your feelings and made you not want to learn from him. Sophia scoffed. Like that would work. Might not. But at least then you'd know you tried. And if he kept being mean after that, then his bad breath would be his own problem to deal with. Sophia studied Maya with those old, sad eyes. The other nannies always took the tutor's side. They said I needed to show respect to my teachers. You should show respect to people who treat you with respect. But respect goes both ways. If someone's being mean to you, you have a right to say so. My mother says I'm too sensitive. Maya felt something crack in her chest at the matter-of-fact way Sophia said this. Like she'd heard it so many times she'd started to believe it. Or maybe the world's just not sensitive enough. Maybe we need more people who feel things and aren't afraid to say when something's wrong. Sophia didn't was wrong, but something in her posture softened slightly. Like a door opening just a fraction of an inch. She stepped back into her room, leaving the door opening what Maya recognized as an invitation. Maya followed her inside. The room was enormous, decorated in shades of lavender and cream that were probably meant to be soothing, but felt cold and impersonal. Like a hotel suite designed by someone who'd read about what little girls like but had never actually talked to one. There were shelves full of expensive toys still in their packaging, a canopy bed that looked like it had never been slept in. Windows overlooking Central Park that offered a view most people would kill for. But what caught Maya's attention was the corner of the room near the window, where Sophia had clearly created her own space. Pillows were piled on the floor, surrounded by books with cracked spines and dog-eared pages, and there was Mr. Hopsworth, the stuffed rabbit with one ear slightly shorter than the other, sitting in the place. That's my reading corner, Sophia said, following Maya's gaze. The decorator wanted to put a vanity there, but I said no. Good call, reading corners are way better than vanities. What are you reading right now? Sophia walked over and picked up a book from the pile. The Secret Garden. Have you read it? A long time ago. Isn't that the one about the girl who finds the hidden garden and brings it back to life? Yeah. And she finds a friend and they help each other and everything gets better. Sophia's voice was wistful. And Maya understood suddenly that this wasn't just a book to her. It was a map to a better world. A promise that hurt could be healed and loneliness could end. That's a good one, Maya said softly. The part where Mary finds Colin and realizes she's not alone and always made me cry. Sophia looked up sharply. Really? The nannies always said it was just a kid's book, and I should be reading something more educational. The nannies were wrong. Any book that makes you feel something is worth reading, no matter how old you are. They stood there for a moment. The silence between them not quite comfortable but not hostile either. Just 2 people trying to figure out if they could trust each other enough to try. Finally, Sophia spoke. Do you want to see my dad's study? Nobody goes in there anymore, but I still have the key. Maya's heart ached at the casual way Sophia offered this, like it was no big deal. Like she wasn't handing over access to the most sacred space in her grieving heart. I'd be honored, if you want to show me. Sophia led her down the hallway to a door at the far end of the penthouse, pulling a key from a chain around her neck that had been hidden under her dress. The lock clicked, and they stepped inside a room that was completely different from the rest of the sterile penthouse. This room was warm, lived in, With mahogany furniture and books lining every wall, photographs in mismatched frames showing a handsome man with kind eyes and Sophia's smile. A younger Victoria who actually looked happy, a family that had once been whole. This was Dad's favorite place, Sophia said, running her finger along the edge of the desk. He used to read to me here every night before bed. Mom had it all locked up after he died. Said it was too painful to come in here. But I made copies of the key. I come here when I miss him. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes and didn't try to hide them. He looks like he was a wonderful dad. He was the best. He never called me too sensitive. He said feeling things deeply was a superpower. Not a weakness. Sophia's voice cracked on the last word, and suddenly she was crying, really crying. Her small body shaking with the force of grief that had been locked away for too long. Maya didn't think. She just knelt down and opened her arms. And Sophia crashed into them like a wave breaking on shore. Sobbing into Maya's shoulder while 2 years of loss and loneliness poured out in tears that had been forbidden. In pain that had been called too sensitive. In love that had nowhere to go. I miss him so much. Sophia choked out. And Mom won't talk about him and everyone says I should be over it by now but I can't. Oh sweetheart, Maya murmured, holding her tight. Rocking slightly the way her own mother used to rock her when the world got too big and too painful. You don't have to be over it. You don't ever have to be over it. He was your dad, and he died, and that's the worst thing that could happen. Of course you miss him. Of course it still hurts. Really. Sophia pulled back, her face blotchy and wet, looking at Maya with desperate hope. You don't think I'm being a baby. I think you're being a little girl who lost her father, and you have every right to cry for as long as you need to. Anyone who tells you different is wrong. Sophia threw her arms around Maya's neck, hugging her with a fierceness that spoke of how long it had been since anyone had let her just be sad. Just be grieving. Just be a child who was hurting. Maya hugged her back, thinking about all the nannies who had come before. With their PhDs and their credentials and their inability to see what this little girl actually needed. She thought about how sometimes the most important qualifications couldn't be listed on a resume. Couldn't be taught in any classroom. They stayed like that for a long time, Sophia crying out 2 years of suppressed grief while Maya held her and whispered that it was okay, that she was safe, that she wasn't alone anymore. Eventually, the sobs subsided into hiccups, and Sophia pulled away, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I probably look terrible, she said, and there was something so adult about the statement, so conscious of appearance, that Maya's heart broke a little more. You look like someone who needed to cry. That's nothing to be ashamed of. Want to wash your face? Then maybe we could make some dinner together. I don't know about you, but I'm starving. Sophia's eyes widened. You want me to help make dinner? The nannies always said I'd make a mess in the kitchen. Well, I was a waitress, remember? I've cleaned up bigger messes than anything we could make. Come on, let's see what's in that fancy kitchen of yours. The kitchen was a chef's dream, all stainless steel and marble countertops. And the refrigerator was stocked with ingredients that looked like they'd been ordered by someone who actually cooked a meal. Maya opened cabinets, finding pots and pans that had probably never been used, and couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. What's funny? Sophia asked, perched on a stool at the kitchen island, watching Maya with curious eyes. I'm just thinking about how your kitchen costs more than most restaurants. But I bet nobody actually cooks in here. The chef comes in 3 times a week to make meals and freeze them. Then the nannies just heat them up. Well, that's boring. How about we make something from scratch? What do you like to eat? Sophia considered this seriously. I like grilled cheese. But the chef makes it with fancy cheese that I can't pronounce. Okay, how about this? We make the world's best grilled cheese with whatever cheese we can find, and we add tomato soup from scratch. It's the perfect dinner for a rainy day. We can make soup from scratch, sure. It's just tomatoes and cream and some spices. My mom used to make it for me when I was sick. Want to help? For the first time since Maya had arrived, Sophia smiled, really smiled, and it transformed her face from sad and guarded to just a regular little girl who was excited about making soup. Okay. But I don't know how. That's fine, I'll teach you. First rule of cooking: there's no such thing as too much cheese. They spent the next hour working together in the kitchen, and Maya discovered that Sophia was smart and funny, that surprisingly capable when given the chance. She measured ingredients carefully, stirred the soup with intense concentration, and only made a small mess when she accidentally tipped over the pepper shaker. When she gasped in horror at the spill, Maya just laughed and showed her how to scoop most of it back into the container. See? Not the end of the world. We can fix almost anything. Miss Catherine would have yelled at me for that. Sophia said quietly. She said I was clumsy and careless. Well. Miss Catherine sounds like she forgot what it was like to be learning something new. Everyone spills things sometimes. I once dropped an entire tray of glasses at the diner in front of a packed restaurant. Shattered everywhere. My boss helped me clean it up and then we laughed about it. You laughed. Even though you broke a bunch of glasses. Sometimes the only thing you can do is laugh. Crying about spilled milk, or spilled pepper, doesn't unspill it. Might as well learn and move on. They ate their grilled cheese and tomato soup at the kitchen island, just the two of them. And Maya told stories about the diner and the regulars who used to come in, and Sophia told her about the books she loved, and the places she wished she could visit. It was the most normal conversation Maya suspected Sophia had had in a long time. And watching the little girl's face light up, as she talked about wanting to see the real secret garden in England someday, Maya felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't just a job. This wasn't just about the money, though she desperately needed it. This was about a little girl who had been drowning and nobody had noticed, who had been crying out for help. In the only way she knew how. By pushing people away before they could leave her like everyone else had. After dinner, Sophia asked if Maya would read to her before bed. And they curled up together in the reading corner with The Secret Garden, Maya's voice bringing the story to life, while Sophia leaned against her shoulder, Mr. Hopsworth tucked between them. When Sophia's eyes started to droop, Maya carried her to bed, tucking her in with a gentleness that made Sophia's eyes fill with tears. Nobody's tucked me. Sid died. Sophia whispered. Mom says I'm too old for it. Well, I don't think anyone's ever too old to be tucked in. How about we make it part of our routine? Every night. I'll tuck you in, and we'll talk about the best part of the day and the hardest part of the day. That way we end the honesty. What was the best part of today? Maya thought about it. Meeting you. And making soup together. What about you? Crying in Dad's study. That sounds weird, but it felt good to finally let it out. And nobody told me to stop. Maya smoothed the hair back from Sophia's forehead. That's not weird at all. Sometimes the best part is letting ourselves feel the hard stuff. What was the hardest part? When you first got here. I really wanted to not like you because then it wouldn't hurt so much when you left like everyone else. Maya's throat tightened. I know I can't promise I'll be here forever. I don't know what's going to happen. But I can promise that I'm not going to leave just because things get hard. And I'm not going to leave without telling you why and saying goodbye properly. Okay? Sophia nodded, her eyes already closing. Maya. Thank you for letting me cry. Anytime, sweetheart. Anytime. The first week passed in a blur of small victories and careful trust building. Maya learned that Sophia was brilliant, reading at a level far beyond her years. But that she struggled with math, because her previous tutor had made her feel stupid every time she didn't understand something immediately. She learned that Sophia loved art but had been told she wasn't talented enough to pursue it seriously. She learned that Sophia had nightmares about helicopters falling from the sky. And that she slept with every light in her room on. Because the dark reminded her of the night her mother had woken her up to tell her that Daddy wasn't coming home. Maya established routines that gave structure without being rigid. Breakfast together at 8. Where they'd talk about their dreams from the night before. Lessons in the morning, but Maya made them interactive, turning math problems into cooking measurements, history into stories. Science into experiments they could do together. Lunch at noon. Always with vegetables that Sophia helped pick out at the farmer's market, they started visiting together. Afternoon activities that ranged from art projects to walks in Central Park to baking cookies that they'd freeze for later. Dinner together. Sharing the best and hardest parts of the day. Bath time with bubbles and laughter. Reading before bed tucked in tight. Nightmares soothed with gentle hands and soft words. Victoria called 3 times that first week, each conversation brief and focused on Sophia's academic progress. Never on how she was doing emotionally. Maya reported that Sophia was working through her assignments, and behaving well. Which was true as far as it went. But she couldn't help noticing that Victoria never asked to speak to her daughter, never asked if Sophia missed her. Never seemed to understand that her daughter was grieving. Not just for her father, but for her mother too, who had disappeared behind a wall of work and achievement and emotional unavailability. On the 8th day, Maya was helping Sophia with a writing assignment when Sophia suddenly put down her pencil, and looked up at Maya with serious eyes. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why do you think my mom doesn't love me anymore?" Maya's heart stopped. She put down her own pen and turned to face Sophia fully. "Oh sweetheart, your mom loves you very much." "No, she doesn't. She never talks to me. She's always working. She doesn't tuck me in or ask about my day or care about anything except my grades. She didn't even cry when Dad died. I don't think she cares about anything." Maya chose her words carefully, aware that she was walking a tightrope between honesty and loyalty. Between helping Sophia understand and not undermining Victoria completely. "I think your mom is hurting too. Sometimes when people are in a lot of pain, they don't know how to show love anymore. They forget how. And they hide behind work or other things that feel safer than feeling their feelings. Like how I used to be mean to the nannies so they'd leave before I could miss them." Maya felt her eyes fill with tears at Sophia's insight. At the way this 7-year-old could articulate patterns that most adults couldn't see in themselves. Exactly like that. Your mom lost the person she loved most in the world. And I think maybe she's scared that if she lets herself love you too much, she might lose you too. And that would hurt more than she can handle. But that's dumb. Being scared to love someone doesn't mean they won't leave. It just means you miss out on the love part. You're absolutely right. It is dumb. But sometimes smart people do dumb things when they're scared. Has your mom always been like this? Sophia shook her head. No, before Dad died, she was different. She used to laugh more. She'd come home from work and Dad would spin her around in the kitchen, and they'd dance while making dinner. She'd read me stories and paint my nails and take me to the park. She was fun. But now it's like she's a robot. Like someone took my real mom and replaced her with someone who looks like her but isn't her anymore. Maya pulled Sophia into a hug, holding her while the little girl cried for yet another loss, the loss of the mother she used to have. "I'm so sorry, Sophia. You deserve to keep your mom even after you lost your dad. That's not fair." "Nothing's fair," Sophia said, her voice muffled against Maya's shoulder. "My dad's gone and my mom's gone too, even though she's still alive, and I'm all alone." "You're not alone, I'm here. And I know I can't replace your dad or your mom, but I care about you, and I'm not going anywhere. Promise?" It was the same question from the first night. And Maya still couldn't promise forever, but she could promise this. "I promise I'm going to try my hardest to be here for you. And if anything changes, I'll tell you. I won't just disappear." That night, after Sophia was asleep, Maya sat in her suit and pulled out her phone, staring at Victoria's contact information. She should probably stay out of it. Should probably just focus on taking care of Sophia and leave the mother-daughter dynamics alone. But she couldn't. She couldn't watch this brilliant, wounded little girl continue to feel abandoned by the one person who should love her unconditionally. She typed out a text, "Mrs. Whitmore. I know this isn't my place, but Sophia misses you. She doesn't need perfect. She just needs her mom. Even 5 minutes a day would mean the world to her." Maya stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. It wasn't her place. She was the nanny temporary help. Someone who'd be gone as soon as Victoria found someone more qualified or Sophia decided she didn't need Maya anymore. Getting involved in their relationship would only make things messier. But the next morning, when Sophia picked at her breakfast and asked quietly if her mom had called while she was sleeping, Maya made a decision. She rewrote the text. This time more carefully. Mrs. Whitmore. Sophia is doing well with her lessons. She's particularly excelling in literature and showing improvement in math. She asks about you often. If you have time in your schedule this week, I think a call would mean a lot to her. Maya. She hit send before she could talk herself out of it. Victoria's response came 3 hours later. I'll call Saturday morning, Tam. Have Sophia ready. It wasn't much, but it was something. Maya spent the next few days preparing Sophia, helping her make a list of things she wanted to tell her mother, encouraging her to share the drawing she'd made of the three of them, reminding her that even if the call was short, it meant her mother was thinking about her. Saturday morning arrived, and Sophia was dressed in her favorite dress, hair brushed, sitting on the sofa in the living room at 9:45, clutching the drawing she'd made. Maya sat beside her, holding her hand as the minutes ticked by. 10 o'clock came and went, 10:15, 10:30. At 10:45, Sophia carefully placed the drawing on the coffee table and stood up. She's not calling. Maybe she got held up in a meeting, or she forgot. She doesn't care. Sophia's voice was flat, emotionless, and somehow that was worse than if she'd been crying. I'm going to my room. A text from Victoria. Meeting ran long. We'll try to call tomorrow. No apology. No acknowledgement that she'd just broken her daughter's heart. Just a casual reschedule, like Sophia was an appointment that could be moved around. Maya found Sophia in her father's study, sitting in his desk chair, staring at a photograph of holding her when she was a baby. She wasn't crying. She was just empty, and Maya realized that this was worse. This was the moment when Sophia was learning that hope was dangerous, that counting on people would only lead to disappointment. I'm really sorry, sweetheart. It's fine. I don't care. But Sophia's voice cracked on the last word, betraying the lie. It's okay not to be fine. It's okay to be angry and hurt and disappointed. What's the point? She's never going to change. She's always going to choose work over me. I'm never going to be enough to make her want to be my mom again. Maya sat down on the floor beside the chair, looking up at Sophia. Listen to me. This is not about you not being enough. You are more than enough. You are smart and funny and creative and brave and kind. Any mother would be lucky to have you as a daughter. Your mom is hurting and scared, and she's handling it badly, but that's about her, not about you. Then why does it feel like it's my fault? Because you're 7 years old and you love your mom, and when the people we love hurt us, we always think we must have done something wrong. But you didn't. You didn't do anything. Looked at Maya, her eyes swimming with tears. Will you be my mom? Not my nanny, my mom. I know you can't really, but could you just pretend? Maya felt like her heart was being crushed and expanded at the same time. Oh Sophia, I would be honored to be your mom. Figure for as long as you need me. But your real mom is still out there, and I think she needs help finding her way back to you. Maybe we can help her together. How? She won't even call when she says she will. I have an idea, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Sophia nodded, wiping her eyes. You're the only person I do trust. That night, after Sophia was in bed, Maya pulled out her laptop and started writing. She wrote about the little girl who loved books and art, and had the biggest heart of anyone Maya had ever met. She wrote about a father who had died too young, and a mother who had forgotten how to grieve properly. She wrote about loss and loneliness, and the way trauma could freeze people in place, could turn love into fear, connection into distance. She wrote about the 19 nannies who had come before her, all qualified on paper, all useless in practice because they'd tried to manage behavior instead of healing wounds. And then she wrote about what Sophia needed. Not another tutor or therapist or expert in child development. She needed her mother. She needed Victoria to wake up from the nightmare of productivity and achievement she'd buried herself in and remember that she had a daughter who was slipping away. who was learning to stop needing her mother because needing her hurt too much. Maya attached the letter to an email and addressed it to Victoria. She didn't include platitudes or softening language. She just told the truth as clearly and kindly as she could. And then she hit send before she could lose her courage. The response came at 2 in the morning. Maya was still awake, unable to sleep. When her phone lit up with Victoria's call, she answered on the second ring. "Ms. Rodriguez." Victoria's voice was tight, controlled. "I just read your email. I apologize if I overstepped, Mrs. Whitmore. But someone needed to tell you. Tell me that I'm failing as a mother. That I've abandoned my daughter. I'm aware of the situation, Miss Rodriguez. With respect, ma'am, I don't think you are aware. I don't think you understand that Sophia waits up every night hoping you'll call. That she makes you pictures that you never see. That she cries herself to sleep asking me why you don't love her anymore." There was a sharp intake of breath on their end of the line. "She said that. She asks me every day. And I tell her that you do love her, that you're just hurting too, but she doesn't believe me because your actions don't match my words." Silence stretched between them, heavy with all the things Victoria probably wanted to say but couldn't. Finally, "I don't know how to do this without him." Thomas was the warm one, the one who knew how to talk to her, how to make her laugh. I'm better with numbers and strategy and things that make sense. Grief doesn't make sense. I don't know how to help her with something I can't fix." Maya's anger softened, hearing the crack in Victoria's voice. The admission of vulnerability. You don't have to fix it. You just have to be there with her while it's broken. She doesn't need you to have all the answers. She just needs you to show up. What if I make it worse? What if I say the wrong thing? Then you'll say the wrong thing and you'll apologize and you'll try again. That's what parenting is, Mrs. Whitmore. It's just showing up and trying, even when you don't know what you're doing. Sophia doesn't need perfect. She needs present. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was thick with unshed tears. "I've been so focused on keeping the company going, on making sure her future was secure financially, that I forgot she needed more than money. I forgot she needed me. It's not too late. She still wants you, she's still hoping. But she won't hope forever. Eventually, she'll stop asking, and that's when you'll really lose her. What should I do? Come home. Not next week or next month. Tomorrow. Cancel your meetings and come home and sit with your daughter and let her see that she matters more than any business deal ever could. I have commitments. I can't just." "Yes, you can. You're the CEO, you can do whatever you want. The question is, what do you want more? To maintain your reputation as the ice queen who never breaks, or to have a relationship with your daughter, while there's still time?" Victoria laughed. But it was bitter. "You don't pull punches, do you?" "I don't have time for punches, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm too busy trying to help your daughter believe she's worth showing up for. And with all due respect, that would be a lot easier if her own mother actually did show up." More silence. "Then, I'll be home tomorrow afternoon. 2 o'clock. Don't tell Sophia. I don't want to disappoint her again if something comes up." "Something won't come up if you this the priority. Please. 2 o'clock, Miss Rodriguez. I'll be there." The call ended, and Maya sat in the darkness of her suite, hoping desperately that Victoria would keep her word this time. Because if she didn't, Maya wasn't sure how many more disappointments Sophia could take before that hopeful, loving heart closed off completely. The next day, Maya kept Sophia busy with art projects and baking, watching the clock creep toward 2 o'clock. At 1:45, she heard the elevator chime. And her heart started racing. She positioned herself so she could see the foyer while Sophia was focused on decorating cookies at the kitchen island. Victoria emerged from the elevator, and Maya was startled by how different she looked. No power suit, no perfect hair and makeup. She was wearing jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, and she looked terrified and vulnerable and more human than Maya had ever seen her. Their eyes met across the penthouse, and Maya gave her an encouraging nod. Victoria took a deep breath and walked toward the kitchen. "Sophia," she called out softly. Sophia froze, cookie in hand, and turned slowly, like she couldn't quite believe what she was hearing. When she saw her mother standing there, not in business attire but looking almost like she used to, something complicated passed across her face, hope and hurt and longing all tangled together. "Mom, what are you doing here? Don't you have meetings?" "I cancelled them. I wanted to come home and spend time with you." Victoria's voice shook slightly. "If that's okay with you." Sophia put down the cookie, her expression guarded. "Why?" "Because Maya helped me realize that I've been a terrible mother. Because I've been so scared of losing you the way I lost your dad that I pushed you away instead of holding you closer. Because I'm so sorry, baby girl. And I want to try to make things right if you'll let me." The kitchen was so quiet Maya could hear her own heartbeat. Sophia stared at her mother. 7 years of hurt and abandonment warring with the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe things could be different. "You forgot to call yesterday," Sophia said, her voice small. "I waited. I know. That was unforgivable. I let work become more important than you, and that's a mistake I've made too many times. But I'm here now, and I want to be here, really be here, not just physically but in every way that matters. What if you change your mind? What if you decide work is more important again?" Victoria crossed the kitchen and knelt down in front of her daughter, taking Sophia's small hands in her own. "Then you can remind me of this moment. You can tell me I'm being an idiot and I need to do better. And I'll listen because you're right and I'm wrong and I've been wrong for 2 years. Sophia's lower lip trembled. "I thought you didn't love me anymore. I thought I did something wrong and that's why you went away." "Oh sweetheart, no." Victoria pulled Sophia into a hug, and Maya watched as years of frozen grief finally thawed. "You didn't do anything wrong. I did. I let my fear of losing you make me lose you anyway. I forgot how to be your mom because being your mom reminded me of when I was your dad's wife. And missing him hurt so much I tried to just stop feeling anything at all. But that meant I stopped feeling love for you too, and that's not okay. That's not who I want to be." Sophia clung to her mother, crying into her shoulder the way she'd cried into Maya's that first day, but this time it was different. This time it was the beginning of healing instead of just the release of pain. Victoria cried too, holding her daughter tight, whispering apologies and promises into her hair. Maya slipped out of the kitchen quietly, giving them privacy for this moment they'd both needed for so long. She went to her suite and sat on the bed, her own tears falling freely, because she'd just witnessed a small miracle. 2 broken hearts beginning to mend. A relationship starting to heal. An hour later, there was a soft knock on her door. Maya opened it to find Victoria standing there, eyes red but peaceful. "May I come in?" "Of course." Victoria stepped inside, looking around the suite with what might have been embarrassment. "This is nice. I hope you've been comfortable here. It's lovely. Much nicer than my apartment was." "Rodriguez, Maya, I don't know how to thank you for what you've done. Not just for Sophia but for me. You gave me my daughter back. You gave me myself back. I just told you the truth. You did the hard part. You showed up. Because you pushed me to. Because you cared enough about a child you'd known for a week to risk your job by telling her boss she was screwing everything up." Victoria smiled slightly. "That takes courage. Or stupidity. I wasn't entirely sure which it was when I hit send on that email." "Courage." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "I want to hire you permanently. Not as a nanny but as, I don't know what to call it. A companion for Sophia. Someone who can be there for her in the ways I'm still learning how to be." Maya shook her head. "I don't think that's what Sophia needs. She needs you. Not me as a replacement for you, but you as her actual mother. What we built this week was good. But it was always meant to be temporary. A bridge to get her to you. But you're so good with her. She trusts you. She trusts me, because I showed up when nobody else would. But you're showing up now. You can earn that trust back. It'll take time, but you can do it." Maya hesitated, then continued. "Besides, I think my month is almost up, isn't it?" Victoria looked stricken. "You're leaving. That was the deal, wasn't it? 30 days, then we reevaluate. Well, we're at day 9, but I think you've got this. I think you and Sophia can figure it out together now. What if we can't? What if I mess up again? Then you'll fix it. You'll apologize and do better next time. That's what parents do. They mess up and they fix it and they keep trying. Maya smiled gently. You don't need me anymore, Mrs. Whitmore. You just needed someone to remind you that your daughter was worth fighting for. Now you know. But Victoria surprised her. What if I kept you on, not as a nanny, but as family support? You could have your own apartment, your own life. But be available for Sophia when I have to travel, when she needs someone who understands her the way you do. I can't promise I'll never have to go to Tokyo again. I can promise I'll make it less of a priority, but my work is still important to me. Having you as a safety net would make me feel better about taking the time I need with Sophia. Maya considered this. She thought about her mother in the assisted living facility. About the bills that still needed paying. About the future that had seemed so uncertain just 2 weeks ago. She thought about Sophia, who had wrapped her small hand around Maya's heart, and wouldn't let go. Can I think about it? Of course. Take all the time you need. The job is yours if you want it, whatever terms make sense for you. That night, Maya called her mother at the facility. Hi Mom. How are you feeling? Maya darling, I'm good. The new medication is helping with the pain. How's the new job? Maya told her everything, about Sophia, about Victoria, about the past 9 days that had changed everything. Her mother listened quietly, and when Maya finished, she said, This little girl needs you. I know. But I'm not her mother. Victoria is, and they need time to rebuild their relationship without me in the middle. Sometimes families need more than just the traditional structure. Sometimes they need someone who can fill the gaps, who can love without agenda. Who can be there in the ways the parents can't always be. Your father was like that for our neighbors' kids. When their dad was deployed. He wasn't trying to replace their father, but he was there for them in ways that mattered. You could be that for Sophia. What if I'm just making it easier for Victoria to keep her distance? From what you've told happening. You're not enabling avoidance. You're building a bridge. There's a difference. Maya thought about this after they hung up. Thought about bridges and families, and the way love could expand to include more people rather than less. Thought about how maybe the traditional nanny role wasn't what Sophia needed. But maybe having someone who cared about her unconditionally. Who could be there when her mother had to be somewhere else. Who could hold space for her grief and her joy and everything in between. Maybe that was exactly what Sophia needed. Over the next 3 weeks, Maya watched Victoria transform. She started coming home earlier, started having dinner with Sophia every night she was in town. She started reading to Sophia before bed. Started learning how to talk about Thomas instead of pretending he'd never existed. She started going to therapy herself. Working through her own grief so she could be present for her daughters. And Maya found her grace in this reconfigured family. She wasn't the nanny. Wasn't the mother figure, but something else entirely. A trusted adult who loved Sophia without conditions, who could be counted on. Who made the penthouse feel less like a museum and more like a home. Sophia flourished. Her nightmares decreased. Her smiles came more easily. She started making friends with other kids at the park. She painted and read and laughed. And sometimes Maya would catch her just being happy. No guard up. No walls, just a 7-year-old girl who was finally healing. On day 30, Victoria called a family meeting in the living room. Sophia sat between her mother and Maya on the couch, looking nervous. So, Victoria began, it's been 30 days. Which means we need to talk about what happens next. Sophia grabbed Maya's hand. You're not leaving, are you? You promised you'd tell me if you were going to leave. I'm not leaving unless you want me to. Maya assured her. But your mom and I need to figure out what my role is here. You and your mom are doing so much better together. You might not need me anymore. I do need you, Sophia said urgently. You're family now. Both of you are. I don't want it to be just mom and me. I want it to be all 3 of us. Victoria looked at Maya over Sophia's head. I've been thinking about this a lot. What if we restructured things? Maya, you could move into the guest apartment on this floor instead of the staff wing. You'd have your own space, your own life, but you'd be close by. You could keep working with Sophia on her lessons, be here when I have to travel, be part of our family. Not as an employee but as someone who loves Sophia and wants to be part of her life. Like an aunt. Sophia suggested. Or a mom friend. Maya laughed. Tears in her eyes. Like family. Just family however that looks for us. There's one more thing, Victoria said. Maya, you told me about your mother. About her medical bills. I'd like to help with that. Consider it part of your compensation, but also just because I can and it seems like the right thing to do. You've given me back my daughter. The least I can do is help you take care of your mother. Maya opened her mouth to protest, to say it was too much. But Sophia squeezed her hand. Please say yes. Then you won't have to worry so much and you can just be happy here with us. So Maya said yes. Yes to the apartment and the family and the future that looked nothing like what she'd planned, but somehow looked exactly right. Yes to loving this little girl who had fought so hard to protect her heart. Yes to being part of this unconventional family, that was built on truth and second chances and the courage to be vulnerable. 6 months later. Maya sat in Central Park watching Sophia play with her new friends. Victoria beside her on the bench. Both of them bundled against the early spring chill. Victoria had cut back her travel to 1 trip a month. Had hired a COO to handle the day-to-day operations so she could focus on the strategic work she actually enjoyed. She'd started painting again. Something she'd loved before Thomas died. And sometimes she and Sophia would spend Sunday afternoons in Thomas's old study, painting together while music played, creating new memories in a space that had been frozen in grief. I can't believe how much has changed, Victoria said softly. 6 months ago, I was losing her. Now look at her. She's thriving. You both are, Maya said. You did the work, Victoria. You showed up and kept showing up even when it was hard. Because you showed me it was possible. Because you believed in us when I'd given up. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Sophia climb the jungle gym with fearless joy. She'd started therapy too. Working through her trauma with a grief counselor who specialized in children who'd lost parents. She still had hard days, still missed her father. Still sometimes got angry with her mother for the years they'd lost. But she also knew she was loved, by her mother and by Maya. By this family they'd built together that didn't look like anyone else's family but worked for them. Maya. Sophia called out from the top of the jungle gym. Watch this! She slid down the pole with perfect form, landing with a triumphant grin. Both Maya and Victoria applauded and Sophia ran over to them, flushed and happy. Did you see? I've been practicing. You were amazing, Victoria said, pulling Sophia onto her lap. My brave girl. Sophia settled against her mother's chest, then reached out to grab Maya's hand, connecting them all. I wrote a story at school today. About my family. Do you want to hear it? Always. Maya and Victoria said in unison, making Sophia giggle. So it's called, The Impossible Girl and the Family She Found. It's about a girl whose dad dies and whose mom forgets how to be a mom. And she's really sad and angry, and she pushes everyone away because if they can't love her, then they can't leave her. But then a waitress comes to her house. And the waitress doesn't know anything about being a nanny. But she knows about being sad, and being lonely. So the waitress sees the girl. Really sees her, and she doesn't try to fix her or make her be different. She just loves her. And then the waitress helps the mom remember how to love her daughter too. And they all become a family. Not because they're related or because they're supposed to, but because they choose each other. Every single day, they choose each other. The end. Maya's eyes were full of tears, Victoria's too. They looked at each other over Sophia's head. These two women who had both been broken in different ways, who had found healing in the courage to be honest, to be vulnerable, to let love in even when it was terrifying. That's a beautiful story, Victoria whispered. It's true though. Right? Sophia looked between them anxiously. We did choose each other. We're a real family. The realest, Maya said, squeezing her hand. The best, Victoria added, kissing the top of Sophia's head, and it was true. Against all odds. Against every expectation and qualification and conventional wisdom about what made a family, they had chosen each other. A billionaire CEO who had learned to value presence over profit, a waitress who had learned that love was the only qualification that mattered, and a little girl who had been called impossible, but was really just waiting for someone to see her worth. They sat together in the spring sunshine. Three people who had found each other in the darkness and built something beautiful from the broken pieces. It wasn't perfect. Victoria still sometimes worked too much. Maya still worried she wasn't enough. Sophia still had nightmares and hard days and moments when grief hit her like a wave. But they had each other. They had honesty and vulnerability, and the kind of love that showed up even when it was inconvenient. Even when it was hard. Even when it required them to be braver than they thought they could be. And in the end, that was the only impossible thing they'd accomplished. Believing that love could be enough, that showing up mattered. That sometimes the most extraordinary families were built not by blood or credentials or expectations, but by the simple decision to keep choosing each other, day after day after day. Sophia jumped off her mother's lap and grabbed both their hands. Come on. Let's go get hot chocolate and then go home and make dinner together. It's taco night. Maya and Victoria stood, letting themselves be pulled along by this force of nature, this impossible girl who had taught them. Both had meant to be brave enough to love again. As they walked through the park together, hands linked, laughter floating between them. Maya thought about the night she'd gotten that email. About how desperate and lost she'd felt, about how she'd had no idea that answering one phone call would change her entire life. She thought about all the qualified nannies who had come before her, with their degrees and their credentials and their complete inability to see what Sophia actually needed. She thought about how sometimes the most important qualifications couldn't be taught in any school, couldn't be listed on any resume. She thought about how she'd told Victoria that first day that she'd probably mess up a lot, and she had. She'd made mistakes and second-guessed herself and had no idea what she was doing half the time. But she'd shown up, she'd kept showing up. And somehow, miraculously, that had been enough. Maya. Sophia tugged on her hand. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about how lucky I am to be part of this family. We're the lucky ones. Victoria said, "Saved us." No. Maya said, looking at both of them, these people who had become her whole world. We saved each other. That's what families do. And in that moment, walking through Central Park on a beautiful spring day, three women who loved each other chose to be a family one more time. Not because it was easy, or because it made sense to anyone else, but because it was true. Because sometimes the most impossible things are the only ones worth doing. Because sometimes a simple waitress can do what no expert could. Because sometimes love, real love, the kind that shows up and stays and fights and forgives, is the only credential that matters. And they all lived not happily ever after. Because life isn't a fairy tale and grief doesn't disappear and challenges don't stop coming. But they lived honestly and bravely and together. Which turned out to be so much better than perfect could ever be. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances and unconventional families, and the power of showing up, take a moment to like this video. And subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us that love can heal, that families come in all forms, and that sometimes the most extraordinary solutions come from the most ordinary places. Because we all deserve to be seen, to be loved, and to know that we're worth showing up for.